Hello, everybody, and welcome again to Nerd of the Third Power, your one-stop shop for all things nerdy and awesome. I am your host and master of ceremonies, Dr. Gonzo. With me, as always, in this epic quest of awesomeness is our resident anime goddess, the Cat. Cat, how you doing?
I am still alive. Woo.
And some days, that's all you can ask for.
Some days, that's all I get.
Have you been struck by the cold that's been tearing its way through the U.S. over the last couple weeks?
Yeah, I think I got bronchitis, and then I got a cold, and right as I was starting to feel better from bronchitis or whatever it was I had, then I got the cold, and then bronchitis-y all over again. So I guess I should go to a doctor one of these days. But usually when it's bronchitis, they're just like, here's some stuff right off the shelf. There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, I'm just getting over a cold myself. I think I've blown half my body weight in gunk out of my head, so it's just not been a pleasant couple of weeks for me. So
I've been hacking half of my body weight out of my chest, so.
Oh, so between my gunk and your gunk, we have a whole shitload of gunk.
Yeah, possibly a living person, but not really a person so much as a pile of smooths.
Okay, all right. But anyway, we got it's just the two of us this week, and we got a fun show for tonight. We're gonna be discussing the Lego Batman movie, which I don't know about you, I was really excited about coming out. So yeah, that should be fun. But of course, there is procedure follow. So we are going to begin, as always, with our random topic of the week. And this week's random topic, I don't know if I've mentioned this on the show, but I'm getting ready to buy a house, so I'm kind of moving my stuff and putting everything in boxes and getting ready to move. And I found something digging through my attic that brought back some memories. Like, you ever have that moment where you just touch something and you have this flashback to a moment surrounding that object, or is that just me?
I don't have anything quite so vivid. I'm not a touch empath. This isn't, I don't know, the Ghost Whisperer. But Charmed. That should totally happen on Charmed. I do this. I do that thing where I go through and I find some old stuff and I, spend 20 minutes playing with that thing that I was trying to pack and then don't get any packing done.
Well, I was packing old books, and I found my old copy of my old hardcover copy of Jurassic Park, the original novel. The copy that my dad got me when I was 10, and I suddenly had this flashback to when I was a little kid in elementary school. And I think it was maybe in the third or fourth grade. You know how one of the things that you do in elementary school every year is you have to do the whole reading comprehension thing where you read aloud to the class, yada, yada, yada. Well, I always had a huge problem with that in school, not because I couldn't read, but because it just bored me to tears. And one day I came into school with this book and I was reading it in class after I'd finished my all my math work for that hour. And the teacher came over and saw me reading this, and she was like, are you reading this? Are you understanding this? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, how come I can never get you to read when we do reading comprehension? You're always so resistant to reading what we're reading. I was like, well, because what we read is boring as hell. And I got sent to the principal's office for that. So the random topic of the week this week is: has there ever been a moment where your geekiness has got you in trouble? So I got in trouble for sass-mouthing over a Jurassic Park book. But Kat, has there ever been a moment where your nerddom has gotten you in trouble?
No.
No?
Because I was a good kid who didn't get in trouble, kind of ever.
You were a little angel, and I guess I was just an evil child.
I was a Girl Scout, to a T, never really got in trouble. I was a bit of a teacher's pet, so all of my teachers were like, okay, that's the smart, quiet girl. I'm not going to punish her for anything.
Oh, so it's only now that you're an adult that you go out and get in trouble.
I don't get in trouble. I'm a good, civil person who doesn't get in trouble with anything.
All right, well then, you guys sound out in the comments or in the email. Let us know. Has there ever been a time where your geekdom has gotten you in trouble? And that'll be fun. Okay, so now we're going to jump into Ask Geek, and we've got a couple of questions here. First one here comes from Stella. Stella! I'm sorry.
Stella!
I don't even know what that's from. I just, like, everyone I know, every time someone says the name Stella, they all start doing that. So
Tennessee Williams, Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, I believe.
I've never seen it, never read it. Like I said, I was too busy reading Jurassic Park to read whatever the hell we were reading over in school. Yes, it took me until I got to college to finish that book. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, there's a play. Anyway, and a movie, whatever. Anyway, question from Stella.
She actually has two questions. One is for me, and it's a bit of a two-parter. And she asks, what is the magic bullet to get you to buy a game, beyond the obvious stuff like being well-designed and not having any bugs? And what is a magic bullet that will immediately kill your interest in a game? So, okay, so she's, all right, so leaving aside the obvious, the well-designed, good graphics, yada, 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 I think the thing that will get me to look at a game and go, yes, this is up my alley, I have to have this, is if it's doing something, basically just doing something creative, something that I haven't seen before. Like, I picked up this game called 20XX over the winter sale, and, when I first looked at it, it just looked like a clone of the old Mega Man X games from the 16-bit era, which I was a huge fan of. I was like, oh, okay, this looks like a nice little throwback. And then I saw that it was a roguelike, which means that all the levels are procedurally generated every time you play, and it's never the same game twice. And I was like, oh, okay, all right, that was the hook that got me in, that it's never the same game twice. It's always a different set of levels. Bosses remain the same, but the levels themselves always change. So I was like, okay, that's really creative. I'll take a look at that. And so I did. So basically, if it's doing something, it's got to have some kind of creative hook, something that I've never seen before, or that puts a new twist on an old established formula. Of course, there are some games that I'll just buy, just no questions asked, because I'm such a huge fan of the series that and I've never been disappointed by them. Like, I'll buy a new Legend of Zelda, no questions asked. I'll buy a new main series Pokemon, no questions asked, just because I've never been disappointed by them. Although Sun and Moon did come really close to disappointing me. But, that's outside the realms of this question. Now, as for something that will immediately kill my interest, that's actually a lot easier for me to quantify. Again, beyond the obvious, just, bad design, bad glitches, bad graphics. The thing that will immediately kill my interest in buying a game, and it's not even something that will come from the game itself, but from someone trying to sell me on it, is if you tell me that I need to buy it because it pushes some kind of message. Now, to be clear, this doesn't mean that I turn my nose up at message games just out of principle. Like, Gone Home was a message game, loved it. Papers, Please was a message game, loved it. Oh God, what was that one I picked up a month or so ago? It was about being a spy for an authoritarian state. Oh God, Beholder, I think it was. I absolutely loved it. So, like, I don't dislike message games as just as a principle, but when someone tells me that I have to buy this game just because of its message, that's the point where I'll just like, no, that's it, I'm tapping out on this. Because at that point, when you say that to me, you're not trying to sell me a game, you're trying to sell me an agenda. And I don't like buying agendas, I like buying games. Tell me about the game itself, don't tell me about the politics behind it. Because at that point, you're not trying to sell me on a game, you're trying to sell me on a message. And that's something I don't care for. Okay, so that's her question to me, and her question to you, Kat, is along the same lines. What is the magic bullet that gets you interested in watching an anime, and what is the magic bullet that will get you to turn away from one?
I don't know if I have a magic bullet that makes me auto-watch something, except maybe to say if it was made by Brainspace. Usually I'll give anything they make a chance, or like a Makoto Shinkai film I'll always watch.
I'm sorry, say that again, Brainface? Brainface? Brainspace. I thought you said Brainface.
No, Brainspace. It's a studio. It's just a really weirdly named studio, but they're all weirdly named. So, yeah, they do a lot of good stuff that I really like. I'd almost say I would, watch an anime solely for a voice actor, but that's not really true. Usually I don't really have a magic bullet that makes me watch one thing, or another. It has to have a good story. If I think the story sounds interesting, then I'll almost certainly watch it if I'm given the chance to. Very close to being my magic bullet is to be a yokai story, which I know are getting more and more popular over the last, 5 years or so.
Now, for people like me who are completely ignorant of anything beyond the four walls that surround us, what is a yokai series?
It doesn't seem to matter too much the genre, because you can have any genre and have yokai in it, but yokai are Japanese, demons, basically, but they're not like our kinds of demons. So you have kitsune, fox demons, and tanuki, which are raccoon demons, and so if you have the Japanese mythological demons in there, usually I'm pretty interested in it. I don't really know why I'm drawn to that sort of thing. It's just a really neat part of culture that I like to watch in an anime. And then if you put Oda Nobunaga in it, I might be more willing to overlook some things that I might not like about it, because Oda Nobunaga is a really interesting historical figure. As for my magic bullet that makes me not want to watch something, fan service, which is almost everything in some form or another. There's always fan service, but overtly ecchi shows, overtly panty shots, boob shots, is a pretty big turn away for me, because I tend to find that these things are, if they're not done right, it can be done right, but most of the time it's not done right. Most of the time it's just there to get dudes to keep watching a show. And I've seen perfectly good anime get sidetracked by going out of their way to dumb down female characters so that you can justify all the panty shots and booby shots and butt shots and everything like that. And
so it's kind of an overtly focus on fan service,
right? A good example is, and this is one that I did watch and I did enjoy, but if I had known how much fan service there was in it, I really might not have watched it, which was Seven Deadly Sins on Netflix. And most of the characters are very interesting, and the lead female character is very interesting, except they make her so stupid and vapid and dumb, and that allows her to put up with being groped and really, it gets kind of rapey at times, and it makes me very uncomfortable to watch that sort of thing, because that's really not a great message to send out, especially to your female viewers. But everything else about that show was fantastic, so if I had known that was going to be in there, I might have just completely skipped that entire show.
So it's almost the exception that proves the rule then.
Right, because there's a lot of shows that I hear are really good, but I know are very fan service heavy, like High School of the Dead. I just won't watch it because I don't want to watch all of that fan service, because I'm afraid that it's going to drag down my experience. I know a lot of guys who don't like all that fan service, but they still watch it, and I'm like, I just don't care to see that. I really feel like it takes away from my experience as a viewer. And that's just me personally. That's not to say that people who do enjoy fan service are in some way wrong.
Yeah, we're not Kotaku here.
Right. You can enjoy whatever you like. That's fine. But it drags my experience down. And that goes both ways too, because there are a lot of shows with male fan service where it does actually take away the experience for me, but those shows are almost exclusively harem shows, which are usually based on otome games. So anything with male idols is always from an otome game, which are games designed for girls, and they're usually extravagant dating sims. Because, that's what girl gamers care about. That's all girls care about is dating sims.
Please note, all the lady gamers out there listening to Kat right now, she's being sarcastic.
Yes.
Stay thy hand on the hate mail.
So, there's a lot of really just pandering to the audience out of, I would almost call them otome shows, but they're, like those, they would call it a reverse harem, but a harem's a harem's a harem, in my opinion. The female harem shows where one girl has all the dudes in the world, I find those kinds of shows fairly obnoxious. There's a few I give exception to because that's not the plot of the show. It just kind of turned out that way on accident. And a lot of shows, not a lot of them, but there are a few shows that pander to Fujoshi, and I don't like that kind of pandering either. I don't like fan service. I want to be impressed by the characters and by the story and by the animation and all of those things combined. And I don't want somebody to, sell me based on what I want to see. Does that make sense? Like, yeah. I want to be surprised and wowed and impressed by the natural elements rather than by the eye candy.
Okay, no, that makes sense. All right, so basically, you if I to boil this all down to its essence, you don't like a show that tries to show you what it thinks you like.
Yes, that's it. That's exactly it. Like, don't get me wrong, I love a show that does these elements well. You can have shirtless dudes sparkling all over the place and, the big titty ladies. And as long as you're doing it right, that's fine. As long as you are doing it in a way that makes sense for the series. But, like, the really ostentatious version of it that doesn't really seem to fit the bill, it just takes away the experience for me.
Okay. All right. Okay, cool. All right, so that's that question. And I've got another question here from Brian, not no relation to our Brian, who, please God, we hope he is safe, because I just learned that there was a tornado that tore its way through San Antonio, so I'll be checking up on him after this show is done.
Yes.
And his question is, what do I think about the rumors of an R-rated Castlevania series coming to Netflix? To which I say, Jesus fucking Christ, if you exist, Lord, you will make this happen. If you love me at all, you will make this a thing.
If there's a just and loving God in the world.
Because, like, I've seen several articles about this over the last week or so, that there's going to be a Castlevania series coming to Netflix, and it's going to be like, Game of Thrones for video games. For those who are, for like the three of you out there who don't know what Castlevania is, it's basically a multi-generational saga of the Belmont family and their continuous battles with Dracula and the forces of darkness, and it all centers around the titular castle in which Dracula resides that reappears every 100 years to basically cause all kinds of chaos in the world. And I think that just that kind, I think that kind of multi-generational story would actually suit itself very well for a television series or Netflix series. Like, have each season follow a different member of the Belmont clan. Like, have the first season follow, say, for example, Castlevania 3, which, if I remember my timeline right, is the first one in the timeline following Trevor Belmont, and then have like the second season follow his grandson Simon, and then we got Juiced, Richter, and all the other Belmonts following after that. I think that'd be really cool and would allow the series to tell some really, epic and long intertwining story arcs. So I would love to see something like that happen.
Now, have the rumors said if this would be an animated series or a live action series?
Given Netflix's budget for this kind of thing, I would actually say that this would lend itself more towards an animated series. Particularly if they really want to get the old school Castlevania fans, have the characters take the appearances that they have in the official artwork, which is very anime styled. just because those designs are just so iconic. I don't see, given the kind of things that you would have to do for a Castlevania series, in order to have it be a compelling story, the kind of effects that you would need to have for like Dracula and for Death and for the various monsters and the chaotic architecture of the castle, there's no way you could justify that kind of budget for a live-action television series. Like there are things that go on in the Castlevania series that make that would make the effects of Game of Thrones look like, you know, a Harryhausen B movie.
And Game of Thrones spends like $1 million an episode.
Yeah. So given Netflix's budget for this kind of things, based on what I've seen of their original series, they'd almost have to do this as an animated series. Which, you know what? I have no problem with that whatsoever.
No, that would be great. I mean, I think Netflix does a really good job with all of the original titles that I've seen them do, with like one exception. But that one exception was an animated series, so I don't know.
Not a BoJack Horseman fan?
No, it was actually Knights of Sidonia.
I'm sorry, you said that, and now all of a sudden, the only thing that I can think of is the music video for a song of a similar title by, oh god, what was the name of that band? Fuck, anyone who's played Guitar Hero 3 knows what I'm talking about, so sound off in the comments and let me know, because I'm drawing a blank and it's pissing me off. But now I've also heard rumors that Netflix is going to be doing a Resident Evil series. And that, I think, if you're going to do that, make that a live-action show. And again, if you do an R-rated Resident Evil, like I said, I think that I would watch the hell out of that. Like, especially if they go back, if they do like the old school zombies. Like I don't like modern zombies, the ones that that have, like, you know, if they weren't dead, they could try out for the track team at the Olympics. You know, that fucking sprint everywhere.
Such a zombie purist.
I am. When it comes to my zombies, I'm an old fuddy-duddy. I like the slow creeping, inevitable horror of the shambling horde. You know, I don't like the sprinters, because, you know, I look at a sprinting zombie and all I'm seeing is a guy who's just really fucking pissed off that he lost his arm in a Thresher accident. I'm sorry. So, yeah, but putting the train back on the tracks, yeah, no, a Castlevania series on Netflix, I want that to be a thing. It has to be a thing, and if there's any loving God out there, it will be a thing. All right, so that's all the Ask A Geek questions that we have for this week. As always, you can send them to us through the email at drgonzo@nerdofthethirdpower.com. And because it's been requested, I'm also going to include a link to that email address in the description on YouTube below this feed if you're listening to this on YouTube. So it's there. You can send it to us through that email address. We love getting your questions. We love answering them on the air. We love reading them. So yeah, get those questions in, and maybe yours will get read on the air. And so, now that we've eaten our vegetables, comes the meat! And that is our discussion of the Lego Batman movie, the Will Arnett spinoff of the Lego movie from a couple years ago. So, I've been really excited for this movie to come out, because I just fell in love with the Lego movie, and I was like, yes, please, more. I became like Oliver Twist. Please, sir, can I have some more? And Lego was like, here you go, boosh! So, yeah, I was really excited for this movie. And so we're going to go ahead and jump right into our discussion and talk a bit about this film and what we thought of it. So let's just start with our general thoughts. So, Kat, what were your general thoughts of the Lego Batman movie?
At first, I didn't know if this was going to be a simple cash grab, or if this was going to be a real film. Like, were they going to make this just so that they could sell toys, banking on the popularity of Lego Batman from the first movie and just people's general love of Batman. And they were just going to throw some shit together and call it a day. Or if this was going to be a genuine, really well thought out film. And thankfully, it was a genuinely well thought out film. It wasn't just a simple cash grab. A lot of thought went into it. There was so much going on in it. All of the extra characters that came in case you were worried about it only being, you know, Batman or DC characters, there was a ton of characters there. If you're not a super Batman fan, then there was a lot of other fun franchises that get touched on, so it was really fun to see all of that. And overall, I was, once I saw some more of the trailers come out, start to get a little more excited. And then I didn't really know what to expect when I sat down to watch it. And then I just sort of let it all happen, and it was amazing.
Okay. I went into this film really excited. I was really stoked to see this movie. And then I came out of it kind of not really knowing what to think. So this discussion is going to be kind of therapeutic for me because I came out not really knowing what to feel about the film. So this will give me a chance to kind of sort through my feelings and kind of decide, this film was great, or this film was awful, or my daddy beat me too much when I was a kid, and now I think I've said too much. But
Whoa,
like I said,
got a little dark.
Yes, indeed. But I said I didn't really know what to think of the film after I came out of it. I mean, it's by no means a bad movie. I had a lot of fun with it. But it definitely, to me, didn't reach the dizzying heights that the first Lego movie did. And I think as we dissect the film piece by piece, brick by brick, I'll be able to kind of articulate where the film didn't do it for me. So let's talk a bit about the general story and script. So the story of this film, basically, this is Batman at the height of his game. He's a super, top superhero in Gotham. He's a big star. Film opens with him saving Gotham from literally every villain in his rogues gallery. And when I say every villain, I mean, I'm not just talking the big guys like Joker, Penguin, Two-Face, Catwoman. We see characters that haven't seen the light of day since like the 1940s, like Condiment Man, Calendar King. There was, I think I got a brief glimpse of Catman, who, yes, that is an actual Batman villain. So it's literally every one of Batman's villains all at once at the same time. And he saves the city. He's a big hero. Everybody loves him. And then he goes home, and it's just him and Alfred living in this big house by himself. And you see that he puts up a big game, but he's actually really kind of lonely, and he's kind of scared to be part of a family again, because he's like any true Batman, he's still wounded over the death of his parents. And the film introduces a new wrinkle in the form of new police commissioner Barbara Gordon, who wants to sort of legitimize Batman's vigilante activity and have him become a real member of law enforcement. And through other various accidents, Batman manages to also adopt Dick Grayson. And Alfred pretty much takes these two events and says, okay, look, it's time for you to cut the shit and, start taking responsibility for yourself and opening up to people. And Batman just goes no, I'm not doing this. I'm Batman. No. And then he just completely resists it. So the film is really kind of Batman trying to come to terms with the fact that he can't do it all by himself, and that he's really losing out on a lot by not opening up to people and letting them into his life. So, and then while all this is going on, the Joker, who, my God, this is the clingiest version of the Joker I've ever fucking seen in my life, is convinced that he has to prove that he is Batman's greatest enemy. So he winds up finding his way into the negative zone and recruiting a bunch of villains from all different franchises to attack Gotham to prove that he is Batman's greatest enemy and to receive acknowledgement from Batman of that fact. And there's lots of giant toy death matches and explosions and pop music, and in the end, as always, Batman saves Gotham, and everybody lives happily ever after. So, Kat, what were your thoughts of the story and script of this film?
I thought the script was pretty funny. There was a lot of breaking the fourth wall in ways that I didn't think there would be, because I kind of thought where the Lego movie was very expansive and it kind of traveled a lot, I thought that the Lego movie would be a lot more contained. So I kind of thought there probably wouldn't be too much fourth wall breaking, but there was quite a bit of it, and it was pretty funny. Everything was very clever. There was a couple of things that I thought were a little weird. Like you talked about the Joker being very clingy, and I kind of felt that that was a very strange way to take the story. It was a little, I want to say, fan-fiction-y. It felt kind of fan-fiction-y, like
it came from the school journal of a yaoi fangirl. Because
I mean, they talk about shipping. Like, Batman literally says, I don't ship us. And that tells me, like, I don't know what they were trying to go with there. Like, I don't know if they were trying to appease the Tumblr fans or what was going on with that. I mean, it was pretty funny, but it was a little, to me, out of character for Batman and Joker. But I just have to take that with the grain of salt, being that this is Lego Batman and Lego Joker and it's Lego Gotham and it's different, so it can be different like that. But it did feel a little strange.
Yeah, the things that I appreciate about the script were I loved how there were all these little things where if you knew what you were looking for, you could see all these little nods to Batman's history. Because like I said, all of those villains that Joker just rattles off the cuff at the start of the film, those are all real villains. And a lot of them, like I said, they haven't seen the light of day for, decades. So it's clear that the guys who made Lego Batman did their research as far as like Batman's mythology, and there were all these neat little in jokes and little references. Like, did you catch that it was Billy D. Williams who did the voice of Two-Face for that one line in the beginning?
Well, it's not that I caught that; it's that I knew that was coming. Yeah. Like, I had heard he was cast.
Yeah, for those who don't understand why I thought that was hysterical. Billy D. Williams actually played Harvey Dent in the 1989 Tim Burton Batman movie, and the sole reason that he signed on to that role was because he wanted to play Two-Face in any future sequels. Of course, history tells us that he didn't get to do that. They eventually cast Tommy Lee Jones to play Two-Face in Batman Forever, and then Aaron Eckhart in in The Dark Knight. So, this is Billy D. Williams finally getting to do what he always wanted to do, and they gave him all of one line.
But he loved that line. He loved that one line, I'm sure. Oh, man.
So I loved the various mythology references, and I got to say, Will Arnett was in top form as far as his performance as Batman. I know that I'm kind of jumping the gun a bit, but like it's clear that he had a load of fun with this script. It's clear everybody in this movie had a lot of fun with the script. The one thing that really kind of threw me for a loop was where Joker recruits all of the he recruits all of the villains from other franchises, and I'm kind of like, okay, all right, well maybe they're doing sort of like they did in the first movie, where this is a metaphor for a kid working out his issues with whatever it is this film, and then we never kind of got that, and so as a result, I kind of felt like the film didn't really have the same heart as the Lego Batman, as the Lego movie. I'm getting the two of them confused again. If that makes any sense.
It was definitely telling a different story. I think it had a lot of heart. The heart was just in a completely different place. And when you have something like the Lego movie, which was telling the story of a kid trying to work out his daddy issues, it's hard to compare to that in the Lego movie, where it's not it's not that enriching of a story. It's just Batman really needs to get over himself. It still has its very enheartening moments, and it's still very rich in emotion, but it's hard to compare. It's like seeing an orphan child and then your mean granny. And you're going, well, of course I'm going to favor the orphan child. It's such a beautiful, angelic story.
Played by Angelina Jolie. Coming this fall. Rated R. There's something that I want to bring up and see if you notice this, but it's something we don't normally talk about when we discuss this, but the editing of this movie I felt was a little roughshod at points, particularly in some of the action sequences. Just the cuts that the film makes at some points, made the action really hard for me to follow sometimes, especially like in that opening sequence in the beginning. It was very difficult for me to follow what was going on for a bit in some of those action sequences. Did you have any sort of issue like that, or am I just getting old?
A little. One of the things that I was hoping they would do a lot more of, being the Lego movie, was that I would hope they would bring over more of the master build stuff, where they're pulling, like there's in the Lego movie, there's a bunch of master builders, and it's really fun to watch them pull all of this stuff out of everywhere and create something new. And Batman didn't do a lot of that kind of building, and I think when he did do it, I feel like it was very confusing to watch. And I don't know if it's because it's Gotham, so everything's really dark, but I felt like I couldn't follow that action pretty much at all.
Okay, all right. So it wasn't just me. All right, good. So it's not just me getting old. Although I am!
Shut up. I'm still older than you.
So, anyway, so that's a bit of the script. So now I touched a little bit about Will Arnett and his performance. Let's talk about the casting in this movie. As he now goes to Wikipedia to find out just who the hell played who in this movie. So what did you think of the casting of this film? Who were some standouts for you?
Can we just briefly talk about how obviously Ralph Fiennes made a great Alfred, but I can't help but notice that Voldemort was a character in the movie and was not voiced by Ralph Fiennes, who played Voldemort in Harry Potter. I don't understand. Voldemort was played by Eddie Izzard. Who I love Eddie Izzard, don't get me wrong. Nothing wrong with that performance. But it seemed kind of silly to have one of the people who played a character that you're putting into this film and you're not having him play that character. You could have switched the two and had Eddie Izzard played Alfred, and he would have done a magnificent job, and it would have been less confusing for the audience who was looking back on it going, why wasn't Voldemort playing Voldemort?
I don't know. I don't see Eddie Izzard's Alfred having the same quiet dignity. I see kind of, okay, so I made your dinner. We have a lobster bisque, very tasty, with mashed potatoes. Ta-ta, here you go. Very.
Yeah, I mean, he is sort of an up actor. I feel like he plays a lot of up characters, but he can do the quietly resigned and dignified. He just doesn't do it that often, I think.
I think his Alfred would wind up sounding like Mrs. Badcrumble, his clarinet teacher.
Oh my god.
Only people who've seen his stand-up will get that joke.
Oh my god, I have to go rewatch that one.
I'll tell you a casting that I thought was really great was Michael Cera as Dick Grayson, Who
knew?
Yeah, I know. Who knew Michael Cera could actually be funny? Shut up, all you Arrested Development fans. But no,
my friend and I were talking about it, about why we like some actors in a very small number of roles, Michael Cera being one of them. And it's kind of like when they're not doing their shtick, they're incredible, and they really get to, do something different and really, push themselves. But when they're doing their shtick, which is 90% of what you see them in, you're just seeing the same thing you've already seen before. So it's not that interesting and kind of boring. But so now he's doing something completely different than we've ever seen him do before, and it's really great.
Yeah, it's like every other Michael Cera movie I've seen him in, he always plays the same thing, awkward hipster dude. And it's like, okay, you're Scott Pilgrim again, or you're that kid from Juno again. But like this movie actually shows that Michael Cera, if you let him loose, he can actually be really hysterical. And I thought that he was really great as Robin. And
you would not have known that it was him by listening. He did a great job with the vocal parts of, like Eddie Izzard as Voldemort. You can tell it's Eddie Izzard playing him. Michael Cera as Robin, you can't tell that it's him at all.
And I don't know if this is just because Cera and Arnett worked together on Arrested Development, or if it was just because they because they actually recorded their dialogue together. I don't know if they actually did that, but you could really tell there was a lot of chemistry between Arnett's Batman and Cera's Robin, just in how they interacted with each other. So it's like, okay, either this is just because either they actually recorded their dialogue together, or this is just because that they worked so long on Arrested Development that Cera knows how Arnett is going to perform a role, and he can adjust for that preemptively.
They probably did record together for a lot. Probably not pickups or anything like that, but probably the bulk of it they probably recorded together.
So I also want to call out Rosario Dawson as Barbara Gordon. I feel like she did a really bang-up job. I loved the kind of dry wit that she brings to the role. That's kind of just like, okay, this is weird and unusual, but you know what? Let's just go with it.
I think a lot of people didn't like that Barbara Gordon was, not that she was in it, but that she was like a potential love interest for Batman. So I have no thoughts and opinions on that because I don't know enough about the actual character of Barbara, but I liked her character in the movie.
Well, Batman's continuities are many and varied, and you know there are many. Any combination of he's been in relationships with any combination of people across various continuities. I think there have been a couple where he and Barbara have been an item. I was kind of surprised that they went there with that, and I was also kind of, I was kind of gratified that they kind of. They didn't reduce her to just being a love interest, because I was like, you know, you have those portions at the beginning where like he looks at her and you hear "I just died in your arms tonight" playing in the background. I was like, oh, this is funny. This is going to be kind of a new take. You know, maybe we'll get to see Batman be kind of awkward and, you know, shy, and I thought that'd be kind of a nice new take. I'm disappointed that it didn't really go all the way with that, but I was gratified to see that they didn't reduce Barbara to just being the love interest. They actually they gave her a chance to be an intelligent character and be a kick-ass crime fighter. And like I said, I just love the dry wit she brings to the role. It's like, oh no, that's not my son. That'd be weird. No, it'd be weirder if it's not your son. Another casting choice that I thought was great was Zach Galifianakis as the Joker. And like I said, this is the clingiest version of the Joker I have ever seen. And it was hysterical because of that. Like, I love how, you know, he's slumped in his chair and he's watching the news, and it's like he's complaining to Harley Quinn. It's like, Harley, what do I have to do to get him to notice me? Like, I was like, I half expected to just go, notice me, Batman, with a nice little moe face. And it was just, it was such a weird and off-the-wall take on the character, but it made sense because the Joker, in many continuities, has had this kind of twisted view of his relationship with Batman, that, like, they're destined to, you know, always be at each other's, you know, they complete each other in some weird, twisted way. And it was nice to see an off-the-wall take like that. But like I said, it was weird to see. My sister described it best. She said, the Joker was channeling a high school cheerleader throughout this film. And I thought that was hysterical.
It was like Joker is Kohai and just wants to be noticed by Senpai. It was a little bit anime. I'm just saying, the whole notice me Senpai thing is... But I didn't really dislike the performance. I wasn't like wowed by it or anything. I didn't have any problems with it, except that there was no laugh. Like, that's what makes a good Joker. Well, there are many things that make a good Joker, but like, there has to be that distinctive laugh. And I didn't really feel like we got a good laugh out of him. We didn't get the manic laugh that is so characteristic of the Joker. So I kind of felt like, you know, I don't want to say they wasted the Joker in it, because obviously he was a big part of the story, but I definitely felt like there was a scene or two that could have used the big screeching, like, scary laugh. You should be scared of the Joker. A little bit. Even a little Lego one. You should still be scared of him because of that laugh. And I didn't get that, so I didn't get the full Joker
Although,
feel.
I'll tell you what, they did skirt closer at the beginning when he does that whole, I come to work with a smile, and he puts on that, like, shark grin.
Yeah.
Like, I tell you what, we've only had 2 films, and the Lego movies have already established themselves as films that produce meme faces that say, I'm about to do something horrible to you. All right, so we've talked a bit about the plot, we talked about the cast. Let's talk a bit about the presentation, the visuals, sound effects, and music of this film. So, what did you think about how this movie presented itself?
Well, obviously the visual effects weren't so dissimilar than the Lego movie, in that it is all animated to look like Legos, which I still think is quite an impressive feat.
See, there's one gripe that I have about on that. There's one gripe that I have about the animation, and I don't know if you noticed this too, but they're doing a lot of things with the animation in this film that you can't do with Lego figures. Like, you notice the mask changing its expression, not just Batman's eyes underneath, but the mask itself changing. Like, it kind of broke the immersion for me. I was like, because like the first film was like the characters by and large didn't do anything that you couldn't do with a Lego figure. Like, you didn't see the strange arm movements like you saw a lot of in this movie. Like, I don't know, is that just me? Is that just my neurosis?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I felt like it was fine. I didn't really feel jarred out of it by anything having to do with the animation. No,
okay.
No, I got nothing. It's all you, bro.
I guess it was just me. And I already brought up my issues with the editing. But like I said, the other thing that I felt was kind of off about this film was, like, and I get that it's Gotham City, but it's like the lighting in this movie kind of, I don't know, it gave the film an odd color palette to always be in that weird pseudo, sunset lighting throughout most of the film. I really feel like that they could have done a little bit more with the color palette in this film, but I mean, that's just me. Sound design I felt was really creative. The only issue that I had, this is less with the movie itself, more the theater we saw it in. We saw it in IMAX, and there must have been somebody leaning on the volume dial in the projection booth, because holy shit, there were times in this movie where I had to cover my ears because, like, it was so loud my ears were hurting.
Oh god.
Yeah.
I saw Rogue One in an Atmos theater, which is like supposed to be the super crystal speakers, blah blah blah, and I literally felt my clothing vibrating when I saw it, and it was like the most horrible thing ever. You can have too much sound in a film; it can really ruin the experience.
Record of loudness war.
That was good. That was good.
So, but like I said, visually this movie was, as far as like the animation and the build effects, it was, like I said, it didn't do really a whole lot new from the Lego movie, but it didn't really need to. I am interested I would be interested to find out how many of the things Batman builds in this movie are actually toys. So that's that. So let's see. All right, so we talked about what did you think of the soundtrack of this film?
It was good. It was, I didn't pay too much attention to the score, but I thought the soundtrack used really good music at just the right time. And I feel like that's becoming a kind of a competitive thing since Guardians of the Galaxy came out and completely nailed the music. And I kind of feel like now a lot more of the geek-centric movies like this are trying to recreate that by having just the right song at just the right time. But I thought it did well. None of it really stands out to me now, like in retrospect. Like, it was fine at the time, but not nearly as memorable, except, of course, that Batman makes up his own song at the beginning and plays it.
And then the one at the end that the one at the end that Robin writes about family.
Oh yeah, that was really cute.
All right, we need fight music. All right, what's this? And he plays like a Stevie Nicks song. This music fills me with rage. Let's use it. All right, so we're kind of running out of time here, so let's start wrapping things up by giving our final thoughts on the film. So, Kat, what are your final general thoughts on the Lego Batman movie?
I thought it was very enjoyable. It was certainly more enjoyable than some of the other things that DC has put out film-wise. Probably because it's not really a DC film so much as a Lego film. I thought it was greatly respectful of the Batman franchise. Less so about the other franchises it touches, but that's neither here nor there. It was really fun, a good popcorn flick where you can just sit there and bounce in your seat and enjoy it. I didn't think it quite measured up to the Lego film, but I think if you like Batman, you are going to think it is way better than the Lego film. Or at least that's the trend that I've noticed. Overall, good film, good family film. You can take kids to see it. Just really fun. And it's been a while since there's been a DC film or DC character film that's been fun. And this one was just fun.
Alrighty, okay. Alright, like I said, I came out of this film not really knowing what to think about it. Like I said, not a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination. And quite enjoyable, taken on its own merits. I think the big issue that I have with it is that I will forever and inevitably compare it to the Lego movie. And, you know, like they always say, the sequel is never as good as the first, so I think that this is really just kind of my own hang-up on the film. Love the numerous references to Batman's mythology. Loved sort of the off-the-cuff humor and the new take on Batman and his relationships with his villains and his family. Yeah, like you said, just a good popcorn movie. Something definitely worth a see. Definitely just something you can have a lot of fun with. So this is the part of the show where we give our final rating on the film. As always, our scale from best to worst is see it now, wait for matinee, wait for DVD, wait for cable, and don't even bother. So, Kat, what's your final rating for this film?
It's somewhere between a wait for matinee and see it now. If you really liked the Lego movie and you enjoy Batman, you should definitely see this film now. If you liked the Lego movie and don't give a fig for Batman, then go see the matinee version. And if you didn't like either, then I don't want to even know you. Go away.
All right. Well, I'm gonna say wait for matinee. It's definitely an enjoyable film and definitely one that's worth seeing. But you know, I don't know if I'd pay opening night movie prices for it. So yeah, I'm gonna say wait for matinee. All right, and that's all the time that we have for Nerd to the Third Power this week. Thank you as always for tuning in. We will see you next week. As always, I'm Dr. Gonzo.
I'm the Cat.
And we will see you next week. Taka, play us out.